we have no continuous city, but we're seeking one to come. I was born, I weighed 5 pounds, little bitty boy, and I haven't grown very much since. It's been my mother, she carried me around on a pillow. I was born in a little log cabin way in the mountains of Kentucky, Cumberland County, near a little creek called Branham. There's only one way to get through there, that's you go through the creek. That's the only way to go is by the creek. It's a little isolated place way down near the Tennessee line of the Cumberland River. My father was a logger. My mother, her father was a school teacher. Is the principal of the rural schools. Didn't get to go to school very much in Kentucky. Oh, the creeks to get up and you couldn't go. In the summertime, they had to take a gooseneck hoe and chop out the corn, tobacco and stuff that they raised in the hills, make a living. I was down standing by the little old cabin not long ago and took a picture of it. I think it appeared in my book. A little old 2-room cabin. The porch, the end of the kitchen has fallen down. I looked at it. I could imagine seeing my mother there. My dad was just a young man. Mother, only 15 years old when I was born. Little mountain children. And my dad worked hard all of his life. He died young, 52. I'm thankful that Mother's still living today. She can be here with me. All my life, I guess I was a misunderstood person. No one understood me. When I was a little boy, I can barely remember. My mother knows behind that how the angel of the Lord came to the room. And I do not know, I know this, that it was not the goodness of my father and mother. They were both sinners. And it wasn't no merits of my own. It was the merits of Jesus Christ. Our family, later on, we poor, oh my. I'm just almost ashamed to tell you how poor that we had to live. I was misunderstood so much that when I would be talking on the street to somebody else would come up, or they'd walk away and meet me stand. And I love people, but no one had nothing to do with me. I was what they call the black sheep. I'd go downtown when I was a little boy, school, it had nothing to do with me. I wouldn't smoke and things with the rest of them, so they had nothing to do with me. When I was become age to go out with girls, 16, 17, 18 years old, well, because I didn't go to dances and parties and things like that, I was a wallflower, so they had nothing to do with me. When I become a minister in the Missionary Baptist Church, I was a fanatic. So God finally got me to the place where He bring me to the people of His call. And I was sitting not long ago on the porch. I just come in from a meeting. I was so tired I couldn't hardly go. I was so tired. I just got most of the crowd away from the house. I sat out on the porch, and my poor old wife, she was just 30 years old, but turning gray. I put my arm around her and sat on the porch. She was rocking a little bit. She said, "Are you tired, honey?" And I said, "So tired I can hardly stand up." Just then a car drove up to my piano player from Lord's Tabernacle. She seen me sitting there, and she ran up to the porch and started crying, laid something on the lap and run away. She said, "Oh, I won't take your time. You rest. While you got this minute, I won't." And she ran away, and I picked it up. I looked at it. There was a little picture on there. I looked up. I've seen some big old sand cranes we have in Indiana. I don't know where you have it here or not. It's been out in the ponds already feeding. The sun was going down in the west. I looked over here. We had that poem, "Sunset and Evening Star, and one clear call for me. May there be no morning at the bar when I'm put out to sea." You've heard it. It had a picture of a ship coming in, a window open, the water, the sun going down, the star coming out. And I looked there, and I said, "Honey, you think of it? A few years ago, I'd go down on the street, be talking to somebody while somebody else would come up and could talk to them while they go away, and I said, now, I have to almost hide out somewhere in the woods or get out. I can stop on an airplane somewhere, and they know you're coming through. They'll have sick people laying around the ramp that he prayed for. I said, think of it now. I said, what did it? My education? I have none. My personality? I have none. What did it? The blood of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who redeemed me. He was the one who gave me friends. I seen those old sand cranes going down, squawking. I looked at 2 or 3 of them flying. I said, look, darling, God has provided for them all day long. They've eaten crawfish and minnows and so forth out in the pond. And it's coming night now. They're gathering down in the Ohio Falls there where all the cranes come and gather at night. And they sit there and chatter together like they were on a picnic, just having a group and sleep together through the night. God provides for them. Just then, 2 of my favorite birds, you might know what they were, robins. Oh, I love our robins. Ever since I heard that story, a little fiction story when Jesus was dying at the cross. Listen, little boys and girls, don't never shoot my little robin. Leave him alone. He's a fine little bird. And I think the little fiction story, the song, how that when Jesus was dying, no one would come to him, and a little brown bird flew into the cross, try to save him, to pull the nails from his hand. And he got his little breast all red with blood, and he flew away, and from then he had a red breast. I think of it, and I think, God, let me shield my breast with your blood too, that when I come before you. And that's just a little thing that I like, robins. And 2 of them flew up in the tree and went to their nest. Their little ones chirped a little. I said, look, God has fed them all day long. They're tired and weary now. They've come into their nest, to their little ones, to gather in for the night. Oh, God, someday, when life is all over and I've done the best that I can do, won't you let me gather in with the people I preach to? As sure as God has a place for the birds together, He has a place for us together. Someday we'll gather together at the setting of the sun. We're going together. Well, I remember the days when a little boy, about 4 of us in the family. My mother's the mother of 10 children, 9 boys and a girl. I was the oldest of the family. Then they come about a year, something different, all the way down to the little girl. Now she's married as a child. But I can remember when we were just 3 or 4 in a group, and we used to live in a little old place. It was up Mother Lusher's place I'm speaking of, a little 2-room cabin, full clapboard shingles, a little old side down like that, and where we'd all gather around out there, and a little old, before the door, I can just remember all the grass was watered down, where there's a bunch of little branhams watered out like a bunch of little possums around the den. Little old boys, we had a table and didn't have very much furniture in the house. I can remember 2 old beds, the old great big high post beds, old walnut I believe they were. We had straw mattresses. Did you ever sleep on a straw tick? Yes. Do you know what I'm talking about? Well, I'm not the only country boy. So, an old straw tick, and they had an old washstand Mother had right between them, and it had marble in the middle here, and 2 little things on the side, little drawers you pull out. I remember that, and over on the other side we had an old trunk that had those little holes beat in it, that little tic-tac, or what you call it, on the metal. And Mama's safe out in the kitchen had the same kind of stuff on. And Papa built us a bench that we sat behind the table to eat. And look, I never will forget. You ever eat on an old wooden bench in the kitchen? Oh, my. Now, I remember Mother used to holler dinner time and all those little branhams washed their face and under the table, you know, and up on the bench on the other side. And we'd have a great big pot dinner, mulligan stew mainly. And each one would get him a plate full, and we baked their bread. Mama baked it in a bread pan, cornbread. And she would cut it in the middle and put it and set on the table. And, you know, Jesus broke bread and blessed it. He never cut it. So each person broke his own piece of bread. That's Kentucky, brother, way down there. So she'd get this unbolted meal and make the flour. And I used to sit right next to Dad where the bread did, and I'd always manage to get a corner of the bread. It was brown and crusty, you know. I'd get that part there, and then we'd have bean soup, and you crumble the cornbread, and you know that wouldn't go bad right now. That's right, what you think of it? It would be fine. And I remember we'd sit there and eat. I've eaten many places since then, but oh, brother and sister, if I could only go back to that one more time. That's right, to those old times back there, all the loved ones. How we'd gather around there, and I remember when we moved from there to another place, and how Dad used to take us down to town on Saturday night. That was a big night. Have a little old Jersey wagon, drove a little mule. I remember his name, Cootsy, they called him. And a little old mule, and Dad would go get it, and I'd see him come in when my dad was a small man, about my size. And I used to see him when he would roll up his sleeves. We had a glass tacked on a tree on the outside in the wash bench. You remember when you used to have that? And Mom would make the hand towels out of an old meal sack, pull the ends of the strings out, you know, make a little fringe on them that's rough. When she get my ears, I thought they were all rough. And she would stand me up and make me wash myself, and she'd use it rough. And I remember seeing Dad when he rolled his sleeves up and wash, and I thought, oh, my daddy, he'll never die. Look at those big muscles. He was longer and great, big, strong arm. I thought, oh, my, look at him. He'll never die. But here we have no continuing thing. He left a young man, a lot younger looking when he died than I am now. And then, when a little later on, I remember then the old house where it stood. I looked at that old house, and I thought, oh, my, isn't that strong? How wonderful, what the structure of it is. I said, that house will be there for many generations. I was passing by just before, come down here, and they have a housing project built there now. Nothing to represent. I remember the old field out through there where Brother and I used to take and catch those old metal larks, go out and try to get them out in the field, run down through there. My, you don't know what I have to give to get to run down that path again barefooted. Meet Dad when he come across the field, pick one up one arm, one the other, and walk with us to the house. Oh my, those golden days. I remember when Dad sitting out there, and I thought, oh, how great, how this all is. Many of you have similar experiences, but and the cities is passing away. Those houses are gone. Here we the old spring where we used to lay down and drink cold water. It isn't even there no more. We have nothing earthly here that'll last very long. Notice. Then I remember going to school. Oh, how I remember going to school, those great days. I remember Dad and Mother used to go to town on Saturday night. Us kiddies would want to go with us. And they'd pay their grocery bill. Pop made a whole 75 cents a day. Great money then, but he had to feed 5 children on it. And look, all of you know from my testimony, when I'm telling things, whether it's good or bad, I've got to be truthful and honest. You'll know it at the judgment, though I not know it here. My father drank very, very heavy, Irish. He just practiced what killed him. Notice, now I remember when he would come in and we'd go to town on Saturday night. We'd all get in the little old Jersey wagon, go to town, pay the grocery bill. We'd wrap up in blankets if it's wintertime. The summertime, we'd sit on some straw. We'd stop down at the corner of the old Speaks Grocery. And I remember when they paid the grocery bill, Pop would get a sack full of candy for a treat. And you bring it out, that's for us boys. Boy, there'd be 5 little pair of blue eyes looking at that sack of candy. And every stick of old peppermint candy was good. And every stick must be broke equally. And if there happened to be one that had come up with not enough sticks, every eye I see that is broke just exactly right. Yes, sir. And we sat there and divided up that candy. And we would eat it. And I would sometimes try to play when I stuck on my piece of candy a while and put it in my pocket and keep it. And Monday, Mom would say, William, I'd say, yes, ma'am, come get me a bucket of water. I'd say to my brother, Humpy, I'll let you suck on this piece of candy if you will go get this bucket of water for me. Oh, I let him have 2 licks off of it. Monday was an easy day for me if I could just resist the temptation of eating that candy. Old peppermint sticks, you remember? It was good. Oh, my. I guess I could go out tomorrow and buy me a box of Hershey's, but it would never taste like that. That's the best candy I ever eat. And we'd keep it over, you know. And we'd hire one another by limited amount of food and stuff is what we could be able. And listen, let me, Mama. Look, friends, it ain't a sin to be poor. No, it isn't. And maybe if none of you had to go down this trail, you don't know what it is. That's the reason. I could never be a rich man. When I see poor little children on the street without clothes to wear, people without coal in the wintertime, how could I sit and hold money in my hands and such as that's going on? I couldn't do it. No one with any kind of a heart could do it. Right? I don't see how rich people can keep themselves together treasures like that. No, sir. God have mercy. I'm speaking of a city that is to come, whose builder, founder, maker, God. I remember just a little brief case. I remember one year I went to school all year without a shirt. There's a rich woman my daddy was working for. She gave me a coat. I never will forget it. When I went to school first, Mama made me a pair of clothes, I think out of Pop's coat that he got married. She had great big white buttons on it. Little panty waist type, you know. And all her kids laughed at me. Said I looked weird. I didn't care what they said. But that was my daddy's coat. It was good enough for Daddy. It was good enough for me. I wished I had it today. I remember that winter I had no coat. Go to school. I remember one day going to school, jumped up towards March. I had this old coat and had it pinned up like this. To get wet or anything in school, I had to wear this little old coat. I didn't have nothing on for it. Couldn't have it. I remember the teacher said to me, he said, William, why don't you take off that coat? I said, teacher, I'm cold. I wasn't. I couldn't take it off. She said, move over there to the stove. She fired that stove up and sweat run down my face. She said, aren't you warm yet? I said, no, ma'am. I couldn't take it off. I didn't have on nothing under. She had it pinned up like this. And she said, well, you've got the bad cold. You got to go home. And she'd send me home. I remember the first shirt that I got after that. My father's sister's children come over. And one of them was a girl, about my age. They stayed 2 or 3 days, and when they went back, the girl left the dress there. One of her dresses. I got to look at that dress. It had short sleeves. I thought, I can make a shirt out of it. And I cut the dress part off and put it on, you know, and took off my coat. It looked pretty good. So, only the buttons was in the back of it. But I got into it, and it went out to school, and all the kids began to laugh at me. I remember we had that little jujuma flock stuff on it, little, what do you call it? What is it? Rip rat, that's right, rip rat all over, you know, up and down the sides like that. And I said that wrong, didn't I? Rick-rack? Rick-rack, that's right. All right. Then I had, and I said, you're laughing at that. I said, look, you just don't know. That's part of my Indian suit. Indian suit. And my cousin's dress. They all laughed at me, made so much fun. I had to go home crying. Oh, my. Up across the field I went. Crying. All right. Now, those old times passed by. I remember going to school. We couldn't take our dinner like other children. A lot of them their mothers would bake bread. They make sandwiches, you know, and put stuff between them. But we couldn't afford that kind of bread. I had a little half-a-gallon syrup bucket. And we'd take a little jar in there and have greens in one. The other one has maybe beans or whatever we had left over. A piece of cornbread lay in there and 2 spoons. And we're ashamed to eat before the other children, brother and I. And we'd step out and go over the hill, go down the edge of the woods, and we'd sit there and eat between us. Look, that brother's in glory today. Oh, my. How I wish he was here. I tell you, not long ago I was coming out of Texas from a meeting. Oh, I was so tired. Why, I said, let's ride up the road. We went up the road and passed to the old school where we used to go to school there. Have a look at the place. I thought, oh, my. I stopped. I said, I want a drink from that old well over there. I went over to get a drink of water, and I pumped it and drank. I leaned across the fence like this was looking. The baby and wife were picking some violets there in the yard. I began to think of different things. I remember seeing all of us little old boys lined up there at the time of the First World War. And I was a little old boy, we'd have our hands leaning over their shoulders, stockings down, what had stockings, and our shoes and the toes all out of them, stand there. I remember a time, it's right after Christmas, Mama, pops and corn. And we'd taken some in a sack to school. That was a rarity. She popped it to spring on the Christmas tree. What she had left over, a little old cedar tree, we cut out in the field. Put the popcorn around to get some papers and make them loose. In school, put them around, we got to school. And I remember sitting there looking. I remember Mother gave us that sack of popcorn, and we put it in the cloakroom where we used to have to keep our coats and our lunches. And I had to think about that popcorn. I raised up my hand. Teacher said, "What do you want, William?" I said, "May I be excused?" Said, "Yes." I went out through the cloakroom and reached down in there, got me a great big hand of that popcorn. Went out and stood behind the schoolhouse, eat that popcorn, and come back in. When dinner time comes, we went in to get our lunch and went over the hill. Edward said to me, he said, "Say, brother, something's happened to that popcorn." It sure has, hasn't it? I know what had happened to it. I'd eat it. Standing there leaning over the fence and thinking about that, I said, "God, I give all the world in my life now if I could take him that handful of popcorn to where he was at and give it back to him." He died before we ever come to a place where we had very much. Just enough to barely live on. God called his precious life. I was out west working on a cattle ranch. And he died in the hospital calling for him. And you hear his screams from down the street. Hard Bill, come to me. One of these days, when I cross the portal, I'll be there. That's right. Got saved just before going. I remember looking at it there and thinking about that. I thought I looked up on the hill where we used to sleigh ride. I remember the time 1917, Mama worked for the government, sewed shirts for the soldiers. They had bundles of shirts. And that's how we lived. They had to go down every weekend, take the shirts down. She got $4.44 to make a bundle of shirts. That's what we lived. All right. When she was going down, I remember us little boys, she couldn't buy us a sled. And all the boys had sleds out on the hill riding, come with great snow and sleet and froze over the top. And we would slide down the hill on our sled. Brother and I didn't have any sled, so we went out to the old country dump, got a big old dishpan. And we'd set in the dishpan, put our legs around one another and hug each other. Down the hill we go. We might not have been as much class as the rest of them, but we were riding just the same. So that done all right until the bottom came out of the thing. Then we couldn't ride no more than that. So we went out and got us an old log. We get up on the hill and get on this log, and here we would go down the hill on the log. Oh my. I remember during the time I wanted to be a soldier, I'd see those soldiers come up the Utica Pike, that flag is flying by, the banners are going, the drums are beating. I'd stand there a little bitty boy, my mouth open, my hair hanging down my face. Oh, when I get to be a man, I'm going to be a soldier. I'd see him with them leggings on, standing, they'd holler attention, and everybody stands there. Oh my. And when I got old enough, and the war come on, they wouldn't receive me. One thing being a minister, another thing, I guess I just wasn't man enough to go. They wouldn't take me. I tried many times, tried to volunteer, and they said, we'll call you for you. Reverend Branham, go on back. I thought, well, but friend, I finally got to put on a uniform. That's right. I remember Lloyd Ford, a friend of mine. He used to belong to what they call the Lone Scouts. He sold papers called Pathfinder or something. And he got a Boy Scout suit for that. Now, I admired that boy. I said to him, I said, Lloyd, when you wear that out, will you give it to me? He said, sure, I'll give it to you. But my, that suit lasted a long time. Look, I got to a place I thought the thing never would wear out. So finally he said he'd give it to me when it wore out. Well, I went on for a while. After a while, I missed him wearing it. I said, Lord, what become of the suit? He said, well, Billy, I'll see if I can find it. He looked around and come back and said, well, Billy said, the last piece of it said, just went to pieces, and Mother took the coat and made the dog a pallet and said, it's all ruined and gone now. So I couldn't find a piece of it, only just one leg in it. I said, well, bring that to me. There's one leg in a had a little drawstring, a little leg about like that. And he brought that one leg to me, and oh my, how I like that leg. So I put it on at home, and I thought, how dandy. If I could just let the school kids see me that leg on. So I went down that day. I remember going to school. I got up on the hill and was riding. I thought, now how am I going to do? I've got to find an excuse to put that leg on so they won't know that's the only leg I got. So I don't know what to do. Now I put it back in my coat. Now I went on to school, and Edward and I were riding down the hill on this old log, and I turned over on the log, and I act like I hurt my leg. I said, oh my. Never hurt. I said, oh my. That was a strain on my leg. I said, it just reminds me, I've got one of my leggings in my suit here. I said, that would help my leg a whole lot. And I put it on, went into school. I was going to, the old blackboard we used to have in school? I was going to ride on the blackboard, so I stood this way, see, put my leg like this on the outside of one that had the legging. I turned sideways like this and right. Everybody, and all the kids got to laughing at me about it like that. I got to cry. Teacher made me go home. I had one legging. But brother, sister, today I've got a uniform and I'm in the army of the Lord, fighting the foes of the wicked. Dressed, you might not be able to see it, but I know it's there. I feel it. The armor of God, the full gospel in my heart, baptism of the Holy Spirit, God working signs and wonders, the helmet of faith, shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, shod with the gospel, the sword in hand, joining with you ranks out here now, that our armor is inside of us. Looking up there and thinking of those old times, I started crying. Wife said, I thought you'd come home to rest. I said, honey, I think about those things. I think, where is Ralph Field? Gone. Where's Wilmer? Gone. Where's my brother Edward? He's gone. Where's Ron Holloway? Gone. Here we have no continuing city. I looked back up on the hill to see where the old place was. I thought if I could just visualize seeing that little line, through that broom stage there, going up to the house. Gone. The house is gone. Daddy's gone. Oh my, here we have no continuing city, but we're seeking one to come, whose builder and maker is God. My friends are gone. My brother's gone. Daddy's gone. The home's gone. Mother and I left for the story. Notice, then thinking of all those things and how I cheated my brother out of a handful of popcorn, it all come back to me then. Brother, sister, don't never do anything wrong, for it will come back to you just as sure as you're living. Do right, you're bound to come out right. And then I remember I'll have to hurry because it's getting late. Get right down now. I have to leave in a few moments. If you'll give me your attention as you have been, I'll think you're awfully nice. Oh, now I wish I had time to move in and get the story of the coming of the gift and so forth, but I'll have to kind of skip that. I remember the time many of you read in the book and so forth, how the angel of the Lord appeared to me down, told me never to smoke or to drink or to defile my body in any way, that there'd be a work for me to do when I got older. Appeared to me in a bush, and how they misunderstood it. My mother could give you the story standing here, and how that even my best girlfriend one time called me a big sissy because I wouldn't smoke a cigarette. And I always had my opinion of a cigarette-smoking woman, and I haven't changed it. That's right. It's the lowest thing that women ever done. That's right. To see them sitting in a place. The other day I started a hollow fire right here in your city. A woman sitting there and smoke coming all out around her like that, and a poor little baby laying in her arms. I thought, you want that baby's eyes to be an ashtray? God never gave you that baby for that purpose. He gives you to raise right. And women, listen here. Take my advice. If you do smoke, oh, in Jesus' name, forget about it. Never do that. That's awful. Don't do that. For I know if this spirit that bothers me, I don't get up and go. Everybody will know how guilty you are. Now, and I know one thing. If this angel of the Lord comes from God, as I know it does, you'll certainly answer it today of judgment for doing it. We're in the spirit of the latter days. People heady, high-minded. Can't tell them nothing. They don't know it all. They won't stop and listen to you. Stop those things. Live right and live before God. I'll tell you one thing. You get the Holy Spirit, and then you can go ahead and smoke as you get the Holy Spirit. Someone said to me the other day, did you ever baptize anybody that smoked? I said, look here, brother. I haven't a yardstick at my church. See? I teach the people what's the truth. And then when they receive Christ, Christ takes care of the rest of it. Here's an old oak tree out here. It holds its leaves all the year through, all the winter. Springtime comes, there's them old dead leaves hanging on it. You don't have to go pick the leaves off to make new ones come on. Just let the new life come up, the old leaf goes off. That's right. Let the Holy Spirit come into a person's heart. They clean up and fix up a few things right. That's right. Just get them to Christ, that's all. That's God's business from now on. Now, I never tell people what they have to do and what they can't do and what that's up between them and God. But I know that one of the lowest things that I ever see women do is smoking. I think I've seen sit there and act like that. It's just something in me. I wish I didn't feel that way, but it's something in me makes me feel that way. It's not me. It's Him. And I know by that what it'll be at the judgment. So escape that. You don't have to do it. Get away from it. Stay away from it. You can't come in this prayer line without it being called out on you. That's one thing. You'll call it every time. And notice this one thing now. Later on down to life, I had girlfriends, like all boys. I remember I was a little skeptic of girls. I've seen the way women act, and frankly, I never had very much use for women. I don't mean your sisters now, but just to see how untrue they were, some of them. I was around White Smart Father drinking, hung around those places, and maybe I'd be around, I'd see how women come out and living untrue, and a lot of them women's done gone on to meet the judgment now. And let's stand there in that day. And I said, I'll never get married. Never had nothing to do with one. I'll be a trapper and a hunter all my life, and I'll never have nothing to do with the girls. But when I got to be about, when I was even 17, 18 years old, I passed down the street. I'd see a girl on one side, and I thought she would go to say something to me. I'd cross over and go on the other side. Because I just didn't want nothing to do. That's all. I didn't want to get caught up with it or anything. I want to keep away from it. And so I went ahead, but finally I found a girl that was a real girl. She was a Christian. She afterwards become my wife. I guess you wonder how I ever got married. See, it's so bashful. I'll tell you how that happened just quickly as I can. I met her. She's a pretty girl, but she's such a lady, the way she carried herself. And I'm so glad that her little boy here this afternoon is hearing this, and I can say his mother was a genuine lady. Yes, sir. And I met her. She was a member of a church up there, and she asked me to go to church with her, and I did. I kept going with her a long time, and I thought she was pretty. She was a real girl. But the only thing was, I'd been going with her for about a year or something, and I knew a girl like that, I shouldn't take up her time if I wasn't going to get married, so I'd have to let somebody else that wanted to get married have her. And that was going to be an awful spot to pull away from me. Because you know how you think they all look, teeth like pearl and eyes like a dove, and all of them get down. Don't you think that of your wife? You ought to continue thinking that of her too. That's right. That's right. Keep that thought in mind. She's just as sweet. Wait till she's made him martyr on the other side, then look at her. She won't need any, what do you call them, manicure stuff you put on your face here to make her look right, man. God will have her. I can't believe scientists that women, when they was ugly looking thing and whatever it was, a man with hair out of his nose like that and looked like a prehistoric animal, I believe that when God woke Adam up to look at Eve, she was the most beautiful thing that eyes has ever looked at. That's right. It goes to show that man, even this day, the desiring man, craves, look at a beautiful woman. Why? Because that stream comes down through that time. See, like that. To know that was given from Garden of Eden. I could see her sitting there, her lovely hair hanging down around her hips. Adam looked at her. It was flesh of his flesh and bone of his bone. I can see him take her by the arm and walk down through Eden. Oh, my. Don't worry, Mother. It'll be that way someday again. That's right. There'll be no old there. There'll be no babies. They'll all be about one age, marching on. Notice, then what happened? I thought, well, I've got to ask her, and I just haven't got the heart to ask her. I don't know how I've got to let her go if she won't marry me. Now, her father was making about $500 and something a month, and I was making 20 cents an hour digging ditches. I had an old crippled up Ford, was in awful condition, and then that's about all I had. I didn't even have a suit. I had trousers of one kind and a coat of another. But she loved me, I know, and I know I loved her. And I'd go to church with her, and she was a very sweet girl. Just as peaceful and nice. Then I thought, now I've got to do something about it. And what am I going to do? And I didn't have nerve enough to ask her. So you know what I done? I wrote her a letter. She did. That's an awful way to become married, but now it wasn't just dear miss. It had a little, I fixed it up the best that I could, and I got it all fixed out, I took it going to work, and I dropped it in the mail. Well, when Wednesday night was coming, we had a date to go to church. And I began to think, what if her mother got a hold of that? Oh, my. And our father was a good-hearted dustman, but her mother is a fine woman, but one of those prickly type, and she didn't like me very well. So she never mistreated me, but she just didn't like me. So I thought, oh, how am I going to get by her? So I began to think when Wednesday night come on, what if she got that letter? She's the one who meets me on the porch. Now what am I going to do? I began to think I just won't go. So I thought, well, if I don't, I've lost my girlfriend. Now what am I going to do? I had to do something. So I went up, I thought I'll take a chance. And I went up there, and nobody out. I know better than blow a horn for the country. You tell me about that. If I wasn't man enough to walk up to the door and ask for her, I didn't go out. I think the girls that take that attitude now would be a lot better off. And so I went up to the door, and I knocked at the door, and this guy warm, I thought, who's come to the door? And she opened the door.